Sons of the Forest is the much-anticipated sequel to 2018's innovative survival horror, The Forest. With both titles being developed by N-Night Games, Sons attempts to improve upon the best parts of its predecessor, while providing enough creative deviations to justify the sequel. As someone with limited survival genre experience and 0 time spent in the forest, this review comes from the unique perspective of a millennial gamer who isn't burnt out by the gather, craft, explore game loop of the genre. As such, I may be overzealous in my praise of this early access title, but beating the campaign has done little to dissuade my excitement for future updates, and 30 plus hours later, I'm still excited to loan in. Is Sons of the Forest worth your time, though? Hopefully this review will answer that. The game starts in a helicopter, soaring around an exotic-looking island. Outside, trees decorate the rolling hills, snow-peaked mountaintops form a natural skyline, and rock-lined beaches envelop the shores of it all. Inside the chopper, you can see other members of your team readying themselves while you peruse the mission files. A family of billionaires are missing, and your team of mercs has been paid to find them. Before you can question the details further, Small Arms Fire sends your chopper into a tailspin. You survive the crash, just long enough to notice you're about to be pistol whipped by a man in an 80s tracksuit. You regain consciousness again with nothing but the clothes on your back, and your questions will have to be put aside for now. You're hungry, thirsty, bleeding, and the concerned sounds of nearby groaning startles you into action. The journey has begun. As fate and kind-hearted developers would have it, you aren't the lone survivor of the crash. Peeling yourself off the ground, you quickly notice another member of your team rolling in agony. After helping him to his feet, you notice a name tag reading Kelvin, and Kelvin's having a much worse day than you. Simultaneously grinning and bleeding from the ears, Kelvin is noticeably discombobulated. Although he can't speak or defend himself, he can still read and follow basic commands presented to him on a handy-dandy notebook. This creates a unique opportunity rarely found in survival games, the ability to play alone while not alone. Instead of being responsible for 100% of the resource gathering and 100% of the building if you're playing solo, Sons of the Forest allows choices through Kelvin. Don't want to collect logs while you're designing the base's layout? That's fine, even though chopping wood is a dynamic and funny minigame in its own right, with each smash of your axe sending chunks of wood splintering away. Just send Kelvin to do it. He'll gather the resources of your choosing and drop them in a location of your choosing. Alternatively, if you don't want to waste time building log cabins when you'd rather be terraforming the countryside with your axe, that's fine too. Tell Kelvin to finish a building project and enjoy chopping all the trees down yourself. You can order him to find berries, collect arrows, or even make campfires. As long as you're doing your share and not lollygagging around, Kelvin will continue to work alongside you. Just let him take breaks as needed and you'll find him to be an effective and eager worker. In typical survival games, players will contend with factors like temperature, dehydration, starvation, and fatigue attempting to explore. While those elements are seemingly present in Sons of the Forest, they take a somewhat different approach to the formula. Squirrels and rabbits scurry across forested areas, ensuring meat for sustenance. Numerous types of birds fly every which way, providing feathers necessary for crafting arrows. The streams, lakes, and oceans all contain oysters, fish, and turtles. Fresh water is everywhere. Rocks and sticks regenerate on the ground constantly, and thick forests house trees for logging. With shelter, food, and water all covered with relative ease, the time you'd normally spend addressing these concerns can be put to establishing a better understanding of your temporary home. As you begin to explore your surroundings, you'll immediately be taken in by the beauty of the game. The sights and sounds of Sons of the Forest are incredibly immersive. You can hear a small animal wandering nearby and track it to its death in the tall grass, catching a glimpse of your next meal only the moment before your weapon strikes. Foliage ambiently rustles and trees visibly sway in the howling wind, their branches holding on for dear life as a breeze-turned gale roars in the background. Shadows are detailed and meticulously mimic their counterparts, which is impressive standing under a tree dancing in a lightning storm. Water flowing over rocks sounds real. Snow crunches beneath your feet and leaves tracks. Rain splatters your face in the throes of a storm and makes it hard to hear approaching dangers. The sun experiences cloud cover, which comes in as a rolling wave of darkness, covering the landscape until the cloud passes or you move to a different region of the island. Birds chirp and animals call to one another in a woodland symphony. It's gorgeous, mesmerizing, and wonderfully distracting as you scavenge the landscape for abandoned camps and supplies. The constant beauty and occasional serenity found on the island, however, both stand in stark contradiction to the violence required to survive on it. It won't take long before you have your first encounters with the local population, and as someone with no forest experience, it was a completely unsettling first encounter. As I collected rocks on the beach, I saw a trio of fiercely painted natives dressed in animal hides and wielding sickles approach. I drew out my tiny survival axe and waited for what I assumed to be an inevitable attack, but it never comes. They simply scout me and wander back into the tree line from whence they came. They may be primitive, but they certainly aren't mindless attack bots. I'm used to enemy AI aggressively throwing their lives away as dictated by the algorithm, but the locals possess a vast array of behaviors that vary based on enemy type, gender, how close you are to their home, and how large their current hunting party is. If you stumble across a lone mud crawler foraging for berries, chances are high you can scare him into a tree and go about your business. Wander into a hunting party and kill enough of them, the survivors will run for cover or flee to potentially regroup. Burst through the bushes into one of their camps, they'll attack to defend their home. Mating partners weep over the corpses of their lovers before attacking you in a suicidal rage. Enemies on the verge of death beg for their lives in a language you don't understand, but facial expressions that need no translation. Certain items in-game increase the dynamic nature of these interactions, and the many layers of behavior ensure every encounter is a constantly evolving one. It all fits very well into the adapt or die philosophy that powers the survival game genre. These locals have adapted well and survived by any means necessary. This includes feasting on their own, dismembering visiting tourists for survival, and defending their homes against threats from above and below. For the tribes of cannibalistic humanoids are just one faction you'll need to contend with more inhuman dangers spawning from the depths of the island's many caves that you'll have to explore. As you traverse the island contending with the natives, you'll eventually notice your GPS identifying some cave formations. Upon further exploration, you'll discover some of these caves are shallow, one-room hideaways, where supplies and the remains of previous owners lay about. Other caves, however, contain deep labyrinths and necessary items for progression in their mostly lightless caverns and dripping corridors. No matter how prepared you might feel, these segments are harrowing experiences, inducing constant anxiety and oppressive conditions. It's in these crypts you'll find the remains of many unfortunate construction workers, clues as to what the hell's going on the island, and the ferocious abominations of the mutant horde. As grotesque as they are destructive, these creatures operate with one motivation: to feed, making interactions with them much different than with the natives. Some mutants are sightless, utilizing echolocation to determine your whereabouts. Others visibly smell and shudder as they approach your direction, seemingly drooling through faceless expressions. All are horrifying, and made more so given that your first encounters with many of them are in the narrow confines of abandoned excavation tunnels. Each enemy has its own weakness, and how quickly you discover them will determine your success navigating their lairs and defending your base when they inevitably come topside. Some have their own social interactions, but they practice less preservation and have a habit of rushing in until fed or dead. It makes sense given their inhuman nature, but it also means they're much more dangerous to encounter. Although the story mode only took me 15 hours to power through, I could have spent much longer enjoying the ride, and I'm still not done playing. Useful items and enemy camps are scattered over the island, and they regenerate after loading in, ensuring I always have supplies to gather and skulls to collect when playing. Rebuilding my base still isn't stale, and even got more exciting with the addition of some items and increased enemy attacks in later days of the playthrough. Where this game's replayability shines, however, is in its up to 8-player multiplayer, which makes excellent quality of life choices. In multiplayer, all resources found in the world are universal. If you see a rope, your 7 buddies can walk over and grab it with you. Everyone carries their own personal inventory. Personal storage containers and lockboxes don't exist. Theft isn't an option. Without resource squabbling to contend with, you and your buddies can focus on fun. Running around, progressing through content, building and improving your base, causing mayhem to the local population, taking turns ordering kelp around. Whatever you want. The game becomes much more comical with friends involved. And with the exception of some locked doors remaining open, different players can progress at their own pace, as major items will still be at their original locations, even if the host or other players have already claimed them. N-Night wants the focus to be on having fun with friends instead of getting into resource wars with them, and their decisions reflect that, making the game an easier sell than some of the more time-intensive survival titles on the market. At the end of the day, Sons of the Forest successfully builds upon its predecessor and offers an engaging experience throughout. There were times when I was noticeably in an early access title, but the occasional stationary wildlife or Kelvin getting stuck in a corner again are small concerns in scope. Combat is sharp and responsive. The island is detailed and teeming with life, and developers are patching in content introducing and mechanic improving updates weekly. While seemingly unfinished, the single-player story left me motivated to do this review in hopes of selling my friends on a hilarious 8-player adventure. It ultimately leaves you wanting more. More gear, more enemies, more interactions, more story dialogue or cinematics. If the developers are to be believed, that's exactly what we're going to get. So sharpen thy spears, brothers. I'll be fighting demons for a long, long time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, don't forget to hit the like button and follow. Catch you all later.